All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're diving deep into the Gupta era.
The Gupta era.
And I know a lot of folks, when they hear that, they think of India's golden age, right?
Right.
Art, science, all that jazz.
Right.
But we're going deeper. We're talking economics. What made this period tick? What were the economic engines behind all that glitters?
Well, it's fascinating. When you look at the Guptas, their rise to power, how they built such a successful economy, there are some really interesting parallels with the Mahajanapadas.
Mahajanapadas, remind me.
These were the kingdoms that came before the Guptas, roughly around 600 to 300 BCE.
Okay, right.
And both of these, the Mahajanapadas and the Guptas, they represent this huge shift. Indian society moving away from a nomadic lifestyle and towards, settling down, building kingdoms.
So less about smaller groups always moving around and more about putting down roots. I get it. Agriculture booms, and bam, you've got these populations exploding.
Exactly. And when that happens, you can imagine things need to change. You need a whole new level of organization.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Going from, tribal councils to full-blown kings, advisors, courts, the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. You need systems to manage everything. Resources, taxes, squabbles. The Mahajanapadas, in a way, they were the prototypes. They were figuring out what the Guptas would later perfect.
Laying the groundwork.
Laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
But there's another fascinating layer here. Think about the timing. This period, it coincides with the composition of the Vedas, those ancient Hindu texts.
Right.
There's got to be a connection, right? More than just coincidence.
Oh, yeah, I bet. It's like destiny almost.
It's pretty incredible. Vedic ideas, especially Dharma and Karma, they become deeply embedded in these kingdoms, almost like the rules of the game.
So baked into the system.
Exactly. And that shapes everything. The social structures, how kings justify their power, it's all connected.
Okay, so big concepts here for listeners who might not be totally familiar. Could you break those down a bit? Dharma and Karma. How did those ideas actually affect these early kingdoms?
Okay, so Dharma, you can think of it like your cosmic job description.
Cosmic job description. I like that.
It's about everyone fulfilling their specific role in society, all for the greater good. You're a warrior, your dharma is to be brave. You're a farmer, you provide food. Everyone plays their part, keeps things in harmony.
Keeps the machine running.
Exactly. And then there's karma.
Ah, karma. Now that makes me think about consequences, like what goes around comes around.
You got it. It's a cosmic scorecard. Every action, every thought, even every word, it has an effect. Not just in this life, but maybe even across lifetime.
Whoa, so big picture stuff.
Big picture. It encourages people to act in line with their dharma.
Knowing that every choice matters.
Exactly. So it's not just about brute force or personal ambition. There's this moral, spiritual dimension to everything. How power works, how you govern. It's like ethical leadership was programmed in from the start.
Built into the system.
Built into the system. And this is crucial as we shift to the Guptas. They didn't just inherit a system from the Mahajanapadas. They learned from it. They refined it. And ultimately, they scaled it up, created a powerful empire.
A true empire.
A true empire. And one of the big keys to their success was trade. When you look at the sources, the Guptas, they had a knack for controlling those strategically important trade routes.
The ones that really mattered.
Both on land and at sea, almost like they were the ultimate middlemen, perfectly positioned to capitalize on this flow of goods between East and West.
Like being in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Think about it. Their location gave them access to these huge markets in the East and the West, all connected. We're talking about things everyone wanted. Textiles, spices, precious metals, flowing through their empire, generating wealth, influence, you name it. It's fascinating to imagine, Roman senators draped in fine Indian silk or Chinese emperors savoring Indian spices. This trade, it wasn't just about stuff. It was a highway for culture, for ideas.
Wow. It's like a global network. But you need more than just location to make that work, right?
Absolutely. You need more than just being in the right place at the right time.
The Guptas, they must have had some serious business smarts.
Oh, they did. And that's where their currency innovations come in. When you're talking about trade over such huge distances, you need a way to pay for it, a reliable, trustworthy form of money. And the Guptas, they came up with a solution. Standardized gold coinage.
Gold coinage.
Gold coinage. They minted these beautiful gold coins, known for their purity, their consistent weight, each one with the king's image on it. And that wasn't just decoration.
A symbol.
A symbol of authority, you got it. A guarantee of value.
So it's like the king himself is vouching for every transaction. even across all those miles.
Exactly. This coinage made long-distance trade so much smoother,
Yeah.
more secure.
I can see how that would build trust. Stability in the marketplace. That's got to be crucial for any economy to really boom.
It's fundamental. Even today, we see how important a stable currency is. Think about it.
Absolutely. Makes sense. So we've got flourishing trade routes. We've got an innovative currency system. What else was feeding this Gupta boom?
Well, the cities. They played a huge role. Think bustling marketplaces, filled with merchants, artisans, not just from the empire, but from far-off lands.
Wow, cosmopolitan.
Cosmopolitan, exactly. Cities like Pataliputra, the capital, became these melting pots, centers of commerce, of cultural exchange. This influx of people, of ideas, led to unbelievable innovation and growth.
I bet. Must have been something to see, like to walk through one of those marketplaces. All those sights, sounds, smells, a real mix of everything.
It must have been quite an experience. And this urban energy, it wasn't just a side effect of economic success, it was a driver. All that trade, it brought wealth, which allowed the Guptas to invest in infrastructure, in education, in the arts, creating a cycle of growth and prosperity.
So they weren't just businessmen, right? City planners, patrons of the arts. It's like they understood that to build a truly great empire, you need more than just money. You need a flourishing culture.
Yes. Flourishing culture. Speaking of, have you ever seen pictures of the Ajanta caves?
The murals, oh yeah, breathtaking. I've only seen photos, but the colors, the details, all those scenes from the Jataka tales, they're incredible.
Truly a masterpiece. And while they're not technically from the Gupta period itself, they offer a window into what was happening artistically in India at that time. The Guptas, they recognized the importance of these caves and they incorporated them into their empire.
It's like they understood that a society's wealth isn't just about gold and silver. It's about art, about stories, about the ability to create beauty. And that actually leads us to something interesting. As much as the Guptas were these savvy rulers, economic masterminds, there's this deep spiritual aspect to their whole approach to commerce, too. We're talking about Dharma and Karma, but now in the marketplace.
You're right. That's one of the things about the Gupta era that really fascinates me. These Vedic concepts, they weren't just confined to, religion or social life. They had real-world practical impact on how business was done. Dharma provided this framework for ethical conduct. It encouraged fairness, honesty in every deal. It wasn't just about making a profit. It was about doing business the right way, with integrity, respect for both sides.
So, in a way, they were practicing ethical economics, driven by spiritual principles. It really makes you wonder, are there lessons here from this Gupta approach, things we could apply in today's world?
That's a fantastic question, and one that I think we should definitely explore.
All right, so next time we'll dig into that question. We'll explore the legacy of the Gupta era, how their economic model, this blend of pragmatism and spirituality, how it influenced what came after.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned. We're going to be bridging the gap between ancient wisdom and our modern globalized world.
Welcome back. Ready for more Gupta Deep Dive?
You know it. We've established that the Guptas, they were economic geniuses. Strategic trade, innovative currency, those incredible cities, even that spiritual foundation to how they did business. They had it all figured out.
They really did seem to have a good thing going.
But they weren't operating in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
What was happening in the rest of the world while all this was going on in India.
That's a great point, and it takes us to a really interesting period. Historians often call it the Axial Age, a time of massive intellectual and spiritual change that was sweeping the globe, roughly from 600 to 300 BCE.
So right around the same time, the Mahajanapadas were setting the stage for the Guptas. It's like there was something in the air everywhere.
It really was a global phenomenon. During this Axial Age, you see people across different cultures starting to question everything. Long-held beliefs, traditions, social norms, really grappling with the big questions, what's the meaning of life, all that.
Whoa, like a worldwide awakening. I remember learning about some of this in history class. Socrates over in Greece, challenging the status quo. Confucius in China, talking about ethical behavior and social harmony.
Exactly. It was this time when so many of the influential philosophies and religions were either born or drastically transformed. Over in Persia, you had Zoroaster introducing the idea of this cosmic struggle between good and evil. Ideas that would later influence huge religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam.
Wow, so many big ideas. It's amazing to think that while the Guptas were building their empire in India, you had all these other civilizations going through their own revolutions of thought and belief. I'm curious, were these cultures interacting at all? sharing any of these ideas.
Absolutely. Even though these civilizations were far apart geographically, they were linked. Trade routes, scholars and missionaries traveling, diplomatic missions, ideas, just like goods, were flowing across continents, shaping the intellectual landscape of the time. The Guptas, they were not only part of this global network, but they also played a key role in spreading knowledge and culture throughout their empire.
It's fascinating. Their achievements become even more impressive when you consider that context, a global intellectual explosion. Not just a golden age for India, a golden age for human thought. But empires, even golden ones, don't last forever. So what happened after the Guptas? Did their economic model have a lasting impact on India?
It really did. Their influence was huge, shaping India for centuries. First and foremost, they showed how powerful a unified, centralized state could be. Remember, before the Mahajanapadas and the Guptas, India was basically a bunch of smaller kingdoms, often fighting with each other.
Got it. So basically the Guptas created the blueprint for empire building in India.
Exactly. They proved that a unified state could achieve incredible things, not just militarily, but also in terms of boosting the economy, fostering cultural development, and their success became this powerful example. For later empires, like the Mughals who came centuries later, they built their own huge empire using a lot of the same ideas, strategic trade, smart economic policies.
So the Gupta playbook was still relevant centuries later, ahead of their time.
Way ahead of their time. Their economic model, with its focus on trade, a standardized currency, and strong cities, set a standard that later rulers tried to copy. Take their currency system, for example. The Guptas' gold coinage, with its purity and the king's image as a guarantee, that set a trend for a long time.
It created trust and stability, which is key for any economy to thrive.
Right. That focus on stability and reliability became a hallmark of successful Indian empires. Later rulers learned from the Guptas and tried to create their own trustworthy, efficient monetary systems.
Makes sense. What about their approach to cities? We talked about how vibrant and cosmopolitan Gupta cities were. Did that have a lasting impact on urban development?
Definitely. The Guptas knew that cities weren't just about administration. They were engines for economic and cultural growth. They put money into infrastructure, encouraged trade and crafts, and made space for intellectual and artistic stuff to happen.
Sounds like a good plan.
It was. And that approach to city planning influenced Indian cities for centuries. You can see echoes of it even today in those bustling markets, the diverse communities, the vibrant cultural scenes you find in modern Indian cities.
I can see that. But no empire, no matter how great, is perfect, right?
Right.
We can't talk about the Guptas without talking about the social hierarchy that was in place during their time, the caste system.
You're absolutely right. It's important to remember that their era, just like the Mahajanapadas before them, was built on a social structure that had a caste system. It was rigid, assigned people specific roles, and made it very hard to move up.
It's a reminder that progress doesn't always reach everyone equally. Even in a golden age, there are systems of inequality that leave some people behind.
Exactly. It's crucial to acknowledge the complexities of history, the good and the bad. We can admire what the Guptas achieved, their ingenuity, their cultural contributions, but we also need to recognize the inequalities that existed.
Makes sense. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, it's clear that the Gupta era wasn't just about economic success. It was this complex mix of economics, cultural innovation, philosophy, and unfortunately, those social hierarchies that had lasting effects.
Absolutely. A complicated legacy that still shapes India today. But there's still a big piece of the puzzle to look at. How do these Gupta ideas about trade, currency, and governance resonate in our modern, globalized world?
That's the question we'll tackle in our final segment. Stick with us as we try to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and the 21st century. All right, so we've journeyed through the Gupta era. We've seen how they built this incredible economic engine. But now, the big question, what can we in the 21st century learn from them? Can these ancient ideas really have any relevance in our crazy, hyper-connected world?
It's a question worth asking. I mean, yeah, we live in a world the Guptas could never have imagined, all this technology. But when you look closely, there are actually some pretty amazing parallels. Take trade, for example. The Guptas, they were masters at using their position, their location, to become this global trading hub, connecting East and West, generating all this wealth through the exchange of goods and ideas.
Yeah, they really understood how to build those bridges across cultures, continents. It makes me think about how interconnected everything is today. Instant communication, goods flying across borders faster than ever before.
It's like the ancient Silk Road has gone digital.
Right.
We have these virtual marketplaces, buyers and sellers all over the world connecting in a second. A web of interdependence. It's pretty mind-blowing. I think the Guptas would be amazed.
Speaking of amazed, what do you think they'd make of our modern currencies? I mean, we're not on the gold standard anymore, the system they use so effectively. Would they see any connection to their own innovations?
It's a great question. Today, we use fiat currencies, right? Their value is based on government decree and the trust of the people using them. But that trust, that was essential for the Gupta's gold standard too.
So even though the actual mechanics are different, the core principle is still the same. People need to believe in the system for it to work.
Exactly. That's a lesson that holds true across centuries, across technology. Gold coins, digital transactions trust is the foundation of a healthy economy. And the Guptas, they got that. They knew how to manage that trust, how to create systems that felt stable, predictable.
Makes me think about institutions like central banks today. They try to control inflation, keep interest rates in check, basically keep the whole financial system running smoothly, kind of like what the Guptas were doing with their standardized coinage.
Right. It's all about creating an environment where people feel secure enough to do business, to trade, to invest. And speaking of business, let's not forget those incredible Gupta cities, those buzzing centers of activity. They didn't just happen by chance. They were designed to draw in talent, to encourage innovation.
Yeah. They saw cities as more than just places to live, engines of growth, of progress.
Exactly. And that approach to urban planning, it was influential. For centuries, even today, you can see echoes of it in modern cities. Think about places like New York, London, Tokyo. They're magnets for talent. Innovation. They attract people from all over the world. It creates a vibrancy that drives economic and cultural advancement.
Though those modern cities, they face their own challenges too, right? Overcrowding, inequality, environmental issues, problems that, in a way, are like amplified versions of what ancient cities faced.
True. And maybe there's something to be learned from the past. The Guptas, for all their successes, they had to deal with these complexities of city life too. Studying how they approach things like sanitation, resource management, social welfare. Maybe there are insights there that could help us build better, more sustainable cities today.
It's a good reminder that history isn't just a bunch of old stories. It's full of lessons, things that can help us now, even shape the future.
Totally. And I think one of the most relevant lessons from the Guptas is their focus on ethical conduct in business. This idea of Dharma guiding their actions, ensuring fairness, thinking about the long-term consequences of decisions. It feels so relevant today with things like climate change, income inequality, ethical consumption.
Yeah. It's like they understood that real prosperity, it's not just about squeezing out every last penny of profit. It's about creating a system that works for everyone, one that's built on ethical, sustainable practices,
Sure.
where it's not just about the bottom line, it's about the planet, about future generations.
Exactly. The Guptas give us this glimpse into a time when economic success wasn't seen as separate from spiritual values, where commerce and ethics were woven together. Maybe that's the biggest takeaway, that real prosperity, it's holistic. It includes material wealth, yes, but also a commitment to justice, fairness, looking after our planet, looking after each other.
That's a powerful message. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Gupta era, let's hold on to that wisdom. Let's remember that building a truly prosperous world, it's not just about getting richer. It's about building a world that's economically vibrant and ethically sound, where commerce and compassion can exist side by side, where we pursue progress, but we do it with respect for humanity and the planet we all share. Thanks for joining us. Keep exploring, keep learning, and until next time, stay curious.